The email hit my inbox like a punch I didn't see coming. It was 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, the kind of Napa Valley afternoon where the sun spills golden across vineyard slopes, and the air smells faintly evoke an ambition. I was in my study, the one room in this sprawling estate I'd built with my own sweat and vision, sipping coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. My assistant, Sophia, had flagged the message with a red star, urgent event approval request. I clicked, expecting some routine ask from one of the charities I quietly bankrolled. Instead, the words on the screen clawed into me, sharp and cold, like a blade slipped between ribs. Dear Miss Harper, we are thrilled to confirm our catering and staging services for the Harper Family Gala, scheduled for Saturday, 10 days from today. As arranged, we request access to the estate via the West Garden Gate at 8 o'clock a.m. for setup. Please confirm site access. Attached are the menu and design mock-ups for your review. The address listed below stopped my breath. 142 Creststone Grove. My home, my sanctuary, the mansion I'd designed down to the last skylight angle, funded with every dollar I'd clawed from the volatile real estate market. But it wasn't the logistics that froze me. It was the name at the top of the email, Harper Family Gala. My sister Elise's name, bolded in the signature line. My mother Victoria's fingerprints all over the wording. And me, Miriam Harper, not a whisper, no CC. No mention, as if I'd never existed. They were throwing a gala in my house, and I wasn't invited. I leaned back in my leather chair, the creak of it loud in the silence. Outside, the hum of a lawnmower droned faintly, blending with the chatter of starlings in the cypress trees. The estate was alive, breathing, a monument to my decade-long grind, yet here was proof they'd written me out of its story. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, itching to fire back a response, to demand answers. But something heavier settled in my chest, a question sharper than anger. How far would they go to erase me? I scrolled through the attachment. Linen swatches in ivory and gold, a champagne tower sketched with obsessive precision, a valet parking diagram that accounted for every inch of my driveway. It was lavish, excessive, unmistakably Elise. She never missed a chance to flaunt. And Victoria? She only showed up when there were cameras to catch her poised smile. I clicked through the mock-ups, each image a fresh cut. The West Garden where I'd once sketched the pergola layout on a napkin during a sleepless night was now labeled Elise Harper's vision. The atrium, with its imported Moroccan tiles I'd haggled for in a dusty souk, credited to Victoria Harper's timeless elegance. My name? Nowhere. The betrayal wasn't new. 3 years ago, I'd walked away from them after a fight that left no raised voices, just scars. It was at Elise's San Francisco penthouse, all glass and sharp edges, where she demanded $750,000 for her latest wellness brand. It's for the Harper legacy, she'd said, her tone dripping with entitlement. When I refused, her laugh was a knife. You married into money, Miriam. Don't act like you earned this, Victoria, perched on a velvet sofa, had added. Her venom. Let's be honest, darling. You're not really one of us. You're just lucky. That was the last time I'd seen them. No Christmas cards, no calls, just a silence that hardened into a wall. Until now, I stood, pacing to the window. The backyard stretched out below, its manicured lawns and stone pathways glowing in the late afternoon light. That's where they'd stage their circus, their gala to crown themselves queens of a kingdom I'd built. The old me would have stormed in, demanded answers, but that Miriam was gone, burned out by their dismissals, their rewrites of my life. Instead, a new plan flickered to life, dangerous and quiet. I didn't want their apologies. I wanted their truth, raw, unfiltered, the kind they'd never speak if they knew I was listening. I picked up my phone and dialed. Hey, Marcus, I said, my voice steady despite the pulse hammering in my throat. I need a favor. Can you get someone on the event staff list for the Harper Gala? Name's Clara Evans. Back kitchen. Low profile. No spotlight. Marcus, my old security consultant, chuckled. You serving canapés now, Miriam? I didn't laugh. I just need to be there. Unseen. He paused, sensing the edge in my tone. Got it. I'll brief the crew. No one says your name. I hung up, my reflection staring back from the window. Not Miriam Harper. Not yet. Just Clara, a shadow with a purpose. The next week was a blur of preparation. I approved a fake resume. For Clara Evans, a nobody with just enough catering experience to blend in. I tweaked the estate's security protocols, disabling cameras in the West Wing where I'd move most. No recordings, I wanted their words live, their faces unguarded. I needed to see who they were when they thought I was nothing. By Friday, the uniform arrived, black apron, white button down, a cheap plastic name tag reading Clara. I stood in front of my bathroom mirror, scissors in hand. My long auburn hair, once a point of pride, fell in clumps to the floor. I cropped it short, uneven, utilitarian. I scrubbed off my makeup, muted my posture. The woman staring back wasn't a real estate mogul who'd flipped a $50 million market in her 20s. She was invisible, ordinary, perfect. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the Napa Hills, casting long shadows across the estate's stone walkways, I tied the apron tight and whispered to myself, "Let's see who you are when you think I'm no one." I stepped out through the kitchen corridor, my heart a steady drum. The staff gathered by the west gate, a line of white-shirted caterers under the barked orders of a head server named Gavin. He was all clipped efficiency, obsessing over napkin folds and tray angles. "Stick to your zones, no wandering, no talking, unless spoken to," he snapped. I nodded with the others, my eyes lowered, blending into the faceless hum of service. The backyard was transformed. Tables shimmered under strings of Edison bulbs, their warm glow catching on champagne flutes like tiny prisms. A jazz quartet tuned up near the pergola, my pergola, where I'd proposed to my ex-husband under a starlit sky. Now it was Elise's stage, her spotlight. I gripped a tray of bruschetta, the weight grounding me as I wove through the growing crowd. Familiar faces drifted past, tech moguls I'd once hosted, investors I'd mentored, even a city council member who'd once called me Napa's visionary. None of them glanced my way. A man in a tailored suit brushed past, muttering, "Watch it, sweetheart." I swallowed the sting and kept moving. Then I saw them. Elise, radiant in a sapphire gown that caught the light like liquid, held court near the pool deck. Her laugh was sharp, performative, designed to draw eyes. Victoria hovered beside her, her cream silk dress a pristine for a woman who'd never dirtied her hands. They posed for a photographer, glasses raised, smiles flawless. I watched from 10 feet away, my tray a shield. Elise's voice carried, "This estate just sings with ambition, doesn't it?" A guest, someone I recognized from a vineyard deal, leaned in. "You must love calling this home." Elise didn't flinch. "It's perfect. I designed every inch." My fingers tightened on the tray, the wood creaking under my grip. She was rewriting me, brick by brick, in front of 100 witnesses. I moved to the library, where more guests mingled, their voices bouncing off the walnut shelves I'd chosen. A woman in a sequin dress complimented Victoria on her architectural genius. Victoria's smile was a blade. "Oh, it's all Elise. She's the heart of this place." Not a mention of me. Not a hint of the nights I'd spent sketching floor plans, the loans I'd leveraged, the fights I'd won to make this estate real. I set down the tray, my hands steady despite the heat rising in my chest. That's when it happened. "Hey, you." Elise's voice cut through the chatter. She was 5 feet away, snapping her fingers like I was a dog. "This tray's a mess. Do you even know what presentation is?" I froze. A single shrimp had slid off center. That was her excuse. I met her eyes, just for a second, and saw no recognition, only disdain. Victoria chimed in, her voice ice. "Don't just stand there gawking. At least pretend you're trained." The room seemed to pause, a few guests chuckling. I lowered my gaze, muttered, "Sorry, ma'am," and adjusted the tray. Inside, something snapped, not loud, not reckless, but a quiet fracture, like a wire pulled too tight. I slipped back to the kitchen, where steam curled from warming trays and the staff buzzed like a hive. Sophia, an older dishwasher with burn-scarred arms and eyes that saw too much, paused beside me. "You're too sharp for this gig, kid," she said, her voice low. I gave her a half smile, just paying my dues. She didn't push, just nodded, and returned to her sink. Her silence was a lifeline, the first kindness I'd felt all night. She leaned in, barely audible over the clatter. "People like them forget who they step on. Don't let 'em." Her words stuck, heavy as the tray. I carried back out. The gala shifted to speeches. Elise stood on a platform by the grand piano, tapping her glass with a fork. "Tonight isn't just a party," she said, her voice honeyed for the crowd. "It's a celebration of legacy, of vision, of family." That word family hit me like a stone. Victoria dabbed her eyes theatrically, and the guests applauded. I turned away, needing air, when a damp rag slapped against my chest. I looked up. Elise stood there, sneering. "What are you waiting for? Clean the counter." "It's a disgrace," Victoria muttered, useless thing, to a nearby guest who laughed. I caught a flicker of movement across the room. Leo, my cousin, watching me. His brow furrowed, a spark of recognition in his eyes. Then he laughed too, turning away. That moment, that rag, that smirk, it settled something in me. I wasn't invisible. I was a storm waiting to break. I picked up the rag, walked to the sink, and turned on the tap. The water hissed, drowning out Elise's laugh from the main hall. I stared into the basin, my reflection warped in the steel. My chest pulsed, a quiet drumbeat of resolve. They thought they could erase me from my own home. They thought I'd stay silent. They were wrong. The next morning, the estate was a hive of activity. Delivery trucks rumbled through the west gate, unloading tables, drapes, and lighting rigs for the gala's final setup. I watched from the kitchen window, still in my Clara Evans disguise, my name tag pinned crookedly. No one knocked on my study door. No one asked for my approval. It wasn't a mistake, it was deliberate. They'd rewritten me out of existence. I moved through the house, a ghost in my own halls. The library where I'd once pored over blueprints was now a staging ground for Elise's photo ops. The wine cellar, funded by my 2017 market flip, was locked to guests, but I knew its secrets. I slipped downstairs, past the racks of vintage bottles, to a recessed panel in the brick wall. A soft click, a hydraulic hiss, and a drawer slid open. Inside, a thumbprint scanner. I pressed my finger, and the glass display blinked green. My cache, USBs, a backup tablet, and a recording device with months of audio from hidden mix I'd installed for security. Elise had called me paranoid. Victoria had sighed and waved me off. Now, those mix were my weapon. I scrolled through the files. April 8th, kitchen design meeting. April 10th, atrium planning call. April 15th, Elise and Victoria, private talk in the study. I copied everything to a new drive, slid the device back, and sealed the panel. If they wanted to play erasure, I'd play evidence. I'd built this house, every beam, every tile. They could take my name off the gates, but they couldn't scrub it from the truth. Back upstairs, I nearly collided with Leo. He leaned against the hallway wall, sipping a bourbon, his eyes narrowing. "You look familiar," he said, tilting his head. My heart kicked, but I kept walking. "Must be the uniform," I muttered, not breaking stride. "No, I know you," he pressed, but I was already through the kitchen door, the noise swallowing his voice. Sophia glanced up from her dishes. "You okay?" I nodded, my hand closing around the drive in my pocket. I wasn't okay. I was dangerous. That afternoon, I found a gala program left on a dessert table. The cover read, "Celebrating Women of Legacy, Victoria and Elise Harper." I opened it, and the words hit like a body blow. After the tragic loss of patriarch William Harper, Victoria and Elise rose to create the Creststone estate, a vision built brick by generations of fearless women. No mention of me, not a footnote. A quote from Elise, "We didn't wait for permission. We forged our own future." My quote stolen, page after page, my designs, my funding, my vision all credited to them. The final line was a gut punch. Though Miriam Harper faded from influence years ago, her absence allowed new roots to grow. Faded? I was standing right here. I looked up. Victoria was across the room, her hand on a donor's arm, laughing like a queen. A guest gushed, "This estate is divine. You and Elise built it from nothing?" Victoria nodded, her humility a performance. "Just us girls." I was 10 feet away, tray in hand, invisible. My throat burned, not with tears, but with a heat that felt like fire. I turned away, slipping into the West Wing corridor. The walls were lined with photos. My father's vineyard groundbreaking, his old military medals, my portrait, once near. The study was gone. In its place, Elise's vision, 2021, a framed sketch I'd drawn. I felt it then, not rage, but clarity. They thought they'd won. They thought I'd break. But this house, it remembered me. And I wasn't done. The galas, preview day dawned bright, the Napa air crisp with promise. I was back in my Clara disguise, khakis and name tag, moving props for a photo shoot. The crew bustled, setting up lighting, umbrellas, and cameras on the front lawn. Elise, in a tailored emerald dress, sipped kombucha and barked orders. Victoria, in a cream blazer, directed the stylist like a film producer. I carried a bench to the eastern archway, angling it to catch the marble's reflective sheen. If you knew where to look, you'd see me in the background, just a shoulder, a shadow. Enough to raise questions. The photographer, a weary guy named Ethan, clapped his hands. Let's get Our Ladies of Legacy center frame. Elise sauntered up the staircase, posing with a hand on the banister. House or trees? She asked. All charm. House, the assistant replied. Make it personal. Personal. The word twisted in me. This was my house, my blood in its bones. I adjusted. A light stand, flicking the switch twice to glitch the sensor. A small detail, but it'd show in the metadata. A crack in their perfect narrative. Elise waved at me vaguely. You make sure the background's clean, no clutter. I nodded, my voice low. Of course, but my collar mick, hidden under my shirt, caught it all. They want a fantasy. I'll give them reality. The shoot wrapped, and the crew moved inside for interviews. Victoria's voice echoed, spinning tales of lineage and vision, never mentioning the name on the original deed. I was loading props into a closet when Leo tapped my shoulder. This is gonna sound crazy, he said, his voice hushed, but, did you work in real estate? I swear I saw your face in a magazine. Harper Designs, maybe? I tilted my head, gave a half smile. I just move things around now. He didn't push, but his eyes lingered, suspicion taking root. By evening, I was in the utility room, my laptop hidden behind linens. I uploaded a clipped image from the shoot, Elise holding a blueprint, my watermark faint but clear, Miriam Harper Designs, principal architect. I posted it to a niche architecture forum with one line, who really built the Creststone estate featured. In looks living spread, I watched the views climb, 20, 50, to 100. Comments poured in. That watermark's legit. Did Harper Designs get shafted? This smells like a cover-up. I leaned back, the hum of the laptop fan blending with the distant clink of glasses. The fuse was lit. They wanted to erase me? I'd make sure the world remembered. The Napa Valley night was thick with the scent of jasmine and the hum of cicadas, but inside the Creststone estate, the air crackled with a different energy, electric, unstable, like a storm about to break. I stood in the utility room, the glow of my hidden laptop casting shadows across stacked linens. The architecture forum post I'd dropped hours ago was now a wildfire, comments piling up like kindling. Wait, Miriam Harper Designs? Wasn't that the firm behind the 2018 eco-revival boom? This smells like a family heist. My clipped image of Elise holding my watermarked blueprint had hit 1,200 views, and the questions were sharpening, each one a needle pricking at the Harper legacy my sister and mother had stolen. But I wasn't done. Not yet. I plugged in the USB Leo had slipped me earlier that day. His words echoed. I don't think you're the bad guy here. The drive was a goldmine. Blueprints, emails, voice notes, all dated before Elise ever claimed a stake in this estate. One file caught my eye, a 2020 email from Elise to Victoria, begging me to keep quiet about the planning stages so she could pitch the vision as hers. My jaw tightened. I'd trusted her then, thought it was just her ego talking. Now I saw it for what it was, a calculated theft. I copied the files to my laptop, my fingers moving fast, heart pounding like I was defusing a bomb. The utility room door was locked, but every creak of the old house made me flinch. If anyone caught me here, Clara Evans would vanish, and Miriam Harper would be exposed before I was ready. A sharp rap on the door jolted me. I snapped the laptop shut, shoving it behind the linens. Clara? You in there? It was Sophia, the dishwasher who'd given me the key card. Her voice was low, urgent. I cracked the door, and she slipped inside, her burn-scarred hands clutching a folded napkin. You need to move. Security's doing a sweep. They're sniffing around after that forum post. My stomach dropped. They know it's me? She shook her head. Not yet, but Victoria's spooked. She's got guards checking staff badges. I nodded, slipping the USB into my apron pocket. Thanks, Sophia. She met my eyes, steady as stone. Some of us know who built this place, Miriam. Don't let them bury you. She was gone before I could respond, her footsteps fading into the kitchen's clatter. I stepped into the hallway, my pulse a drumbeat. The gala preview was in full swing, the main hall alive with journalists in sleek blazers, their lanyards swinging as they scribbled notes. Elise stood near the grand staircase, her black silk dress catching the chandelier light, her phone glued to her hand. She was scrolling, her face tight, the first crack in her polished facade. Victoria, ever the queen, worked the room, her cream pantsuit pristine as she spun tales of feminine vision to a cluster of reporters. I moved through the crowd, tray in hand, offering champagne flutes with a practiced smile. But my collar mic was on, catching every word, every lie. Then it happened. A journalist, a sharp-eyed woman with a notepad, raised her voice. "Miss Harper, can you clarify who acquired the original deed to Creststone?" Elise's hand froze. Mid-sip, her champagne glass trembling, Victoria stepped in, her smile ablaze. "My daughter Elise, of course." She had the vision, the network. The journalist wasn't done. "We've seen documents referencing a Miriam Harper, blueprints with her name. Are you familiar?" The room stilled, a collective intake of breath. Elise's eyes darted to Victoria, then back. I was 3 feet away, offering a flute. Her gaze flicked to me, a flicker of unease, but no recognition. "You've been very helpful," she muttered, voice low. I nodded, my tone soft but edged. "I live to serve." She looked away, but the seed was planted. I slipped to the edge of the room, my heart racing. The journalist's question wasn't random. She'd seen my post, or someone had tipped her off. The watermark was doing its work, but I needed more. I needed the world to see the truth, not just whisper it. Back in the utility room, I opened my laptop again, this time uploading a video to an Expos channel known for torching shady real estate deals. I'd spent hours editing it, clips of Elise's speeches claiming credit, spliced with my original blueprints, timestamps, and emails. One damning screenshot showed Elise texting me in 2019, "Let me take the lead on the press. You're too intense about the details." The final frame was a photo from the gala program, Victoria and Elise, all smiles, with me blurred in the background, holding my blueprint. My caption, "Stolen Legacy, the real architect of Creststone." I hit send, my breath shallow. The upload bar crept forward, each second a lifetime. Then, a crash outside the door, glass shattering on marble. I froze, shoving the laptop under the linens just as the door rattled. "Open up." It was Gavin, the head server, his voice sharp. "We've got a spill, and you're not at your post." I grabbed a rag, my hands shaking, and opened the door. He glared, pointing to a broken champagne flute in the hallway. "Clean it, now." I knelt, picking up shards, my mind racing. Had he seen me on the laptop? Did he know? The glass cut my finger, a thin line of blood welling up, but I kept moving. Head down. Danger was close, but so was the truth. By midnight, the video was live, racking up 300,000 views in hours. Notifications pinged on Elise's phone across the hall. I could hear her sharp gasps, her frantic whispers to Victoria. "It's everywhere," she hissed. Victoria's voice was ice. "Call the lawyers." Shut it down. But they couldn't. The internet didn't forget. Comments flooded in. "This is fraud. Miriam Harper's the real deal. The Harpers are done." I stayed in the shadows, my apron stained with champagne and blood, but my resolve ironclad. They'd thrown me out of my own home. Now I was letting the world walk in with cameras. The next morning, the estate was a battlefield. The air buzzed with tension, like static before a lightning strike. I was back in my Clara disguise, moving props for a follow-up photo shoot. The crew was setting up in the atrium, where my Moroccan tiles gleamed under morning light. Elise was unraveling, her perfect wrap dress wrinkled, her eyes darting to her phone every 5 seconds. Victoria, ever composed, directed the crew with a tight smile, but her hands betrayed her, clutching her pearl earrings like a lifeline. I adjusted a potted fern, my collar mix still recording, when a production assistant waved me over. "Clara, fix the light rig. It's flickering." I climbed a ladder to the rig, my hands steady despite the height. The bulb was loose, sparking faintly, a fire hazard if ignored. I tightened it, but as I did, the ladder wobbled, a bolt loose under my weight. My heart lurched as I gripped the frame, inches from a 10-foot drop to the marble below. The assistant didn't notice, too busy shouting into her headset. I steadied myself, sweat beading on my neck. One wrong move, and I'd be sprawled across my own tiles, my cover blown. I climbed down, my legs shaky but my focus sharp. The danger wasn't just physical, it was the ticking clock of exposure. Leo caught me in the hallway later, his face pale. "You seen this mess online?" he asked, holding up his phone. A TikTok video was blowing up, zooming in on my watermark with a voiceover. Who is Miriam Harper, and why's her name on the blueprints but not in the story? I shrugged, playing dumb. People love drama. He leaned closer, his voice a whisper. Elise is losing it. She's blaming the interns. I nodded, adjusting a tray to look busy. She should watch where she points fingers. Leo studied me, his eyes narrowing. You're not just a server, are you? I didn't answer, but my silence was enough. He pulled a small USB from his pocket, silver and scuffed. I backed up Elise's drive before she wiped it. There's a folder, Draft Concepts MH. Dozens of files, all dated before she claimed the estate. He held it out, his hand steady. I hate when people steal credit. I took the USB, my throat tight. Why me? He looked away, jaw clenched. Because I think you're the one who got screwed. I slipped the drive into my pocket, my mind racing. This was it, the final piece. But before I could process, a security guard rounded the corner, his flashlight sweeping the hall. You, badge, he barked. My heart stopped. My badge read Clara Evans, but if he ran it through the system, it might not hold up. I held it out, my hand steady, but inside, I was a wire stretched to snapping. He squinted, then waved me off. Stay in your zone. I nodded, slipping away, but the close call burned. I was walking a razor's edge. That afternoon, Victoria called a house-wide meeting in the drawing room. Her pearl earrings gleamed under the chandelier, but her voice was steel. There's misinformation circulating, she began, scanning the staff like a hawk. Anyone leaking documents or images will face legal consequences. Her eyes landed on me, and I held her gaze, unflinching. Then I raised my hand, my voice calm but pointed. What if someone was falsely credited? The room went silent, a collective held breath. Elise shifted, her face pale. Victoria's nostrils flared. I beg your pardon, she said, her tone a warning. I didn't back down. Just a question. A young kitchen staffer, emboldened, piped up. This place doesn't even feel like Elise's style. It's got soul. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room. Victoria dismissed us with a curt back to work, but the damage was done. The staff was questioning. The narrative was cracking. That night, I returned to the utility room, the USB burning a hole in my pocket. I plugged it in, and the files were a revelation. My original sketches, my budget spreadsheets, even a voice note of me pitching the atrium's eco-design to investors. Elise had synced them to her cloud, thinking she'd scrubbed them. I assembled everything, blueprints, contracts, timestamps into a digital dossier. At 1:47 a.m., I drafted an email to Lux Living, copying a historic preservation group and the Napa City Ethics Board. Subject: Creststone Estate True Ownership. I attached the files, my fingers hovering over the send button. This wasn't revenge, it was correction. They wanted to be legends. I'd give them a legacy with receipts. I hit send, and the world shifted. By morning, the video I'd posted had hit 2 million views. Sponsors dropped the Gala Foundation like a hot coal. The Preservation Society issued a statement disavowing the Harpers. Staff resigned in droves, citing moral concerns. I was in the kitchen stacking plates when Elise's scream echoed from the study. Who did this? I kept my head down, but Sophia caught my eye, a ghost of a smile on her lips. The truth was out, and it was louder than any outburst I could have made. 3 days later, I stood under the estate's portico, the marble cool under my feet. Victoria had once ordered me to polish it by hand, claiming machines left streaks. Now, the only streaks were in the comment sections online, tearing her and Elise apart. I adjusted my collar mic, nodding to Riley, the host of Real Estate Truth, a YouTube channel that thrived on exposing luxury scams. His sneakers probably cost more than the chandelier Elise loved to pose under. You ready? He asked, his grin sharp. Let's show them the truth, I said, my voice steady. The live stream launched at 9:15 a.m. By 9:20, we had 800,000 viewers. By 9:30, 1.5 million. The gates swung open, and I led Riley through the foyer, pointing out the arches I'd designed for Spanish Revival elegance. I carved my initials MH into that beam, I said, as he zoomed in. Still there. The chat exploded. She's the real architect. This is insane. We moved to the library, where I opened a hidden nook I'd built for late-night work. Riley's eyes lit up. This is no prop. This is personal. I nodded. This house is my fingerprint. We reached the master suite, its vaulted ceiling, A marvel of light and space. Riley read from a Looks Living clipping. Elise claimed this was for her wellness routine. I shook my head. It was a sound sanctuary for my late sister, who had sensory issues. The chat went wild. They used a disability space for clout. Disgusting. Then, footsteps sharp, frantic. Elise burst in, her silk and pearls no match for her blotchy, furious face. You can't film here. This is my property. Riley didn't flinch. The homeowner invited us. She spun to him. I am the homeowner. I turned slowly, my voice calm. Actually, that's me. Her face froze, not in confusion, but in dread. She knew, deep down. She'd always known. You signed it. Over. She hissed. I shook my head. No, it's in a trust, reverting to me if you falsified credit or misused funds. Like you did. Riley held up a tablet, displaying the trust documents. Vetted and verified, he said. The silence was suffocating. Elise's voice cracked. You're humiliating me. I met her eyes. I'm giving the truth, a home under the roof I built. Downstairs, Victoria was on the phone, her voice shrill, calling lawyers. We didn't stop. In the main hall, Riley narrated as the chat flooded with support. Victoria appeared at the staircase, her poise crumbling. This is a misunderstanding, she declared, cameras turning. My daughter meant no deceit. The audience wasn't buying it. Gaslighting 101. Liar. I said. Nothing. I didn't have to. The truth was louder. By nightfall, the fallout was seismic. The Gala Foundation lost 2 major sponsors. The local paper's headline screamed, Founder returns, exposes decade of deception. Victoria's key card flashed red at the west gate. She tried again, then called me. I let it ring. They'd given me silence. Now I gave it back. The mediation hearing came a week later, in a sterile courthouse room that smelled of coffee and old carpet. Elise and Victoria sat across from me, their lawyer whispering frantically. My attorney, Karen Lee, laid out the evidence. The trust's reversionary clause, triggered by their lies and misuse of charitable grants. A notarized memo from my father's lawyer, tying the estate to me. And the USB's files, undeniable proof of my work. Elise offered a settlement co-naming rights, an apology, residency. I declined, my eyes on the table. The panel ruled in my favor. Full ownership reverted to me. Elise and Victoria had 48 hours to leave. I walked out into the Napa sunlight. A text from Leo waiting. She's packing. That afternoon, I returned to the estate. Elise was shoving bags into an SUV, her eyes averted. I didn't stop. Leo leaned against the archway. They took your name off the gates, but never from the soul of this place. I nodded. They never owned it, not even their lies. By dusk, the West Garden lights glowed again. I walked the paths, the koi pond murmuring, jasmine heavy in the air. Leo handed me a box, a letter from my father, hidden in a false shelf. You built a legacy. Make it yours again. I sat on the stone bench, the words sinking in. Not validation, but truth. The staff returned Sophia Marcella, Leo rebuilding what was mine. The gates were repaired, my name restored. A quiet donation funded a community center in my father's name. No fanfare, just impact. I'd been invisible, but in silence, I'd reclaimed everything. The house remembered, and so would the world.